The 2024 NHL draft might be a little bit of a weaker class, but I think the balance in this draft class is especially good. Once you get past like 15th overall, the 16th to late second round is practically even for me. And that means that there's going to be a lot of under the radar prospects that might get picked way later than they should. So today we're going to go through not 10, but 15 underrated prospects in this 2024 draft, players that might be underrated for everyone out there, and also for NHL teams that I think deserve more respect. So make sure you watch till the end as we go through all of the rankings and all of the prospect scouting reports, and hit that subscribe button for you for more hockey prospect content just like this as we do the incredible lead up to the draft this year. Now before we get to the top 15, I first want to showcase today's sponsor in Sleeper Fantasy. NBA Finals time is here, Stanley Cup Final time is here, and today I got 5 different picks for Game 1 of Panthers Oilers. First I got Connor McDavid more than 0.5 assists, next Vladimir Tarasenko more than 1.5 shots, Evan Bouchard more than 1.5 blocks, then I also got Darnell Nurse more than 2.5 blocks, and then finally Anton Lundell more than 1.5 shots on goal. Putting $10 down and we'll see how it goes. And if you guys want to make picks of your own, if you're riding high on different players, you want to pick more or less on any single player there, make sure you go in the description, sign up to Sleeper Fantasy using promo code GRAB, and you'll get up to $100 on your first deposit match. Highly recommend it, and now is the best time to get started with Sleeper. Now, originally, this video was just going to be 10 underrated guys, but it just continued to boil over, and there was too many prospects that I wanted to mention here that I just had to include. We're going to start out today at number 15, and the 15th most underrated prospect in the draft this year, and this is somebody that isn't underrated a whole lot, but I feel like deserves more recognition than he's been getting, as, in my opinion, the best defenseman in this draft, and we first start out with Zeev Buium out of the University of Denver. We talked a lot about Zeev on this channel over the past few months and just how consistently he's been the #1 guy for me. Not just being instrumental in the US's World Junior win, being great down the stretch, eating minutes and playing well offensively, but also, of course, a part of the Natty winning Denver squad and being a huge part of that team too. 50 points in 42 games, being dominant at his age. To me, Zeev's game is just bled through so many great offensive traits, whether that be his creativity, the edge work on the blue line, the vision offensively, the passing ability, and the consistency that he's able to connect passes, especially on players coming up the ice. To me, Buium just has so many good offensive traits that it would be hard to see and not translating to the NHL level. I have my concerns. I think he definitely still needs to bulk up, add more muscle, get a little bit more physically inclined defensively. He's somebody that can be beat on the rush and can be beat in front of the net, but I think this is somebody that once he is able to build that muscle, I think has good intentions. He always is where he needs to be, but I think once that muscle is added, he won't be a superb defensive player at the NHL level, but I think he will be passable. And on top of the transition game, the ability to create in the offensive zone, you're gonna take that where you can get it. He's somebody that I have squarely inside my top 5 in my draft rankings, but is somebody that I see outside the top 8, even sometimes outside of the top 10 in this draft, which to me is just insane with how much he's accomplished, how much the ceiling is there offensively. I think it's just hard to bet against him at this point. Next up, we go on to number 14, and one of my favorite smart boys in this draft, we go on to Jett Luchanko of the Guelph Storm. Somebody that has really reached himself into the teens in my draft rankings, but is somebody that I can absolutely see being more towards the back end of the first, maybe even a second when it's all said and done. Sure, is his height amazing? No, but I do think Luchanko just brings so many good attributes that you want to see out of a center. He's so positionally smart. He's someone that always is in the right spots, especially when attackers are defending. He always supports the play, and I think the way he creates, the chemistry he's able to find, he's somebody that is just a good facilitator of offense. He's not going to be driving anything insanely well, but I do think he's somebody that is always in the right positions, and you can see how that's been able to lead to success at the World Juniors with Guelph this year. He's somebody that is just a leader through and through off the ice, but also just the way he plays is so consistent. You always know what you're getting out of it. But there's so many factors with his skating ability, the IQ, the positioning, especially defensively, the transitional ability, and the way he's able to carry the puck, especially how hard it is to knock him off pucks. Even though he is a smaller player, to me, I see him transitioning incredibly well in the NHL. I've seen some comparables to Yanni Gourde, a type of player who's a great third-line center on a Stanley Cup winning team, and I could absolutely see that happening. Now let's keep going and go on to number 13, and this was a player we mentioned in the Risers and Fallers video a few days back, but next up at number 13, I got Eigar Shuran out of the MHL. Now, Shuran is a fun one and has been a guy that's been really rising up my boards for a long time now. He's someone that has had a great second half of the MHL campaign. He finished with 52 points in 42 regular season games, but in the playoffs had 23 points in 19 games, 9 points ahead of the second leading scorer on Loco, Yaroslavl. He has just been such a beast in the MHL, and it's easy to see why. He's so physically developed, and the intensity he provides strides on the ice is bar none. I mean, he's one of the best motors in this draft class, and one of the more consistent ones too. The work ethic there is strong, and the way he's able to attack defenders, bring on the opposition, bring the physical pressure is fantastic. And you combine that with some pretty good soft skill of his shot and the speed there, and to me, there's a pretty good profile here. The big difference, and I guess the big problem here might be the hockey sense and making the right decisions at the right times. And there are, I think, times at points in the game where he's just so fast, his brain is just going a million miles a minute, where he's not able to slow the game down and make the right decisions. And sometimes there could be a little bit of franticness with the moves that he makes and the decisions he makes. And I think that's something that will need to be shored up at the NHL level and provide a little more consistency there. But I do think Shuran has the basis of a strong power forward and somebody that you really like to have on your third line. He's somebody, though, that I think maybe could rise up in the draft, but I think is somebody that should go in the late first, early second round, and hopefully ends up there on draft day. But next up at number 12, we keep going, and next up we go on to one of my favorite honeybees of this draft class, and Ollie Josephson, who with Red Deer this year has just been such a fun, just hunter to watch. He's somebody that defensively is one of the more refined players of this draft class. He's physically mature, he's intense on pucks, and his backchecking ability, his ability to strip players from the puck when they're up the ice, when they're in transition, is just beautiful. He's somebody that loves to turn the puck over on the other side. He loves to create from the back end. And even though I don't think there's a ton, especially with his shooting ability, that inspires much hope offensively, he's somebody that, I mean, with how young he is in this draft class, could improve that over the years. He's somebody, though, that I think as a floor could absolutely be a great shutdown fourth line center, and maybe even a third line one if it all connects. He's somebody, though, that I could see going in the third or fourth round because of questions because of that size and just if he's going to be able to translate that to the NHL level. But he's somebody that I love to see, and I think would absolutely be worth a second rounder. If you subscribe to the motto that work is more important than talent, well, Josephson is your man. Next up, we go on to number 11, and a defenseman that has been pretty underrated throughout this class, mostly just because of the injury and the inconsistencies this year. And next up, I got Adam Juracek out of Czechia. And the thing is here with Juracek is that he's somebody that, yes, has slipped a little bit for me over the course of the season, but I don't think is going to be outside my first round for a few key reasons. No, this last season for him wasn't spectacular. In the main Czech league, there were times where he was getting out-battled, and there were times where the offensive game wasn't quite flourishing, but for the most part with Juracek, and it's somewhat of the same thing as well with Dickinson, even though there are times where they can get overwhelmed, to me, I like to bet on upside and bet on tools a lot of the time. In Juracek's case, he's somebody that has a great skating ability, fantastic edge work. He's somebody that is just so good at getting the puck back and using his abilities and using that skating ability to get out of the zone and cleanly. And that's, to me, a big thing that will really aid him at the NHL level. And even though there are times, again, where I think he can get out-muscled, he's 6'2". I think he could absolutely grow into that, just like his brother David Juracek did, and that to me are some of the reasons why I think he does have that potential long term, even if this season go too well. He's also one of the younger prospects too, being a June birth date, which I think is critical too. But now we're gonna go inside the top 10 most underrated prospects in this draft class, and starting us out at number 10, I got Cole Baudouin of the Barrie Colts. He's somebody that I watched for the first time a few months ago, liked him, and then kept watching him and kept loving him and watched him even more and loved him even more. Baudouin is my boy. At 6'2", 201 pounds, it is just graceful to watch him play. He's so speedy. His forechecking ability is one of the best in this class, but his ability to create pressure, force oppositions to get the puck off fast, he brings such an intensity to the game, and it's smart too. It's not uncalculated. He's somebody that is always in the right places, creating the pressure when he needs to, and that's going to be something that I think will almost automatically give him a role at the NHL level. You combine with that the gifted physical traits, the skating ability, and to me, there's just so much to love there. I don't think there's going to be this incredible 70-point player here, but I could absolutely see him being this guy that rounds out to a 30, 40-point role and is just a consistent 15-year NHL vet that you just love to have on your Stanley Cup winning team. Again, it's not all too crazy. Sometimes you like to have those simple players, and Baudouin just gets the job done. But next up at number 9, we're going to go on to the 9th most underrated prospect in this draft class, and it's not somebody that I have as high as Baudouin, but I mean could be equally as underrated, and that's Merck Vaker out of the Brantford Bulldogs. Vaker is an interesting case because I do like a lot of the tools. His shooting ability is fantastic. I do think in tight against physical pressure, he can be a really consistent battling forward, getting to the net, driving play. I do think there are times though where he can kind of be a non-factor on shifts. He can kind of be more of an opportunistic guy looking for the right time and the right mistake to strike. That can lead to some goals, but it could also leave you wanting more. But I think if you're able to unlock even more consistency in him, get him more in a factor in shifts, get get him more physically engaged. I think this is a player that could be really interesting and a pretty special player on your middle six. He's another guy I could see going as a second rounder, maybe even a third round pick, and to me at that point, that's incredible value. Grab Vanacker and you'll be happy. Now we're gonna head on back to the defensive side of things and go on to one of my favorites in this draft class outside of that top tier of D. And next up, I go on to Dominic Badinka out of the SHL. I think the real make or break for some people is how much potential you see in Badinka's game. Do you see him really being able to develop that offensive style? Do you see him really pushing the play at the next level? And to me, I absolutely do. And you put that on top of the skating ability, the physical traits, and to me, Badinka could be this fantastic overall player. Somebody that I could see being a middle pair D in the future. And again, I think there is more offense to unlock. Even though he's a little bit one note in his creativity, there's a lot of potential there with his shot and the skating and the ability, I think, to drive the net if he really wanted to. And I think there's something you could really develop into a special player here and somebody that would be, in my opinion, a top 20 player looking back. But he's somebody that I still think is looked at as mostly a second rounder. And I'm sorry, with the traits he has, he's at least going to be an NHL player and could be much more than that. Now we're going to keep going through the defensemen that I like, and next up at number 7, we're going to go to Adam Kleber in the USHL. The Minnesota Duluth commit, this is somebody that if you're looking for a defenseman, especially somebody that will likely be available in at least the late second, if not the third round, maybe even fourth round, Kleber to me is fascinating. He's somebody that, like Badinka, you might have question marks over how much offense there is at the next level. To me, I'm not quite sure. He's a little bit one note. He's a little bit quick to get rid of pucks, and he's somebody that with the puck on a stick kind of makes it look like hot potatoes sometimes. But I do think with the aggressiveness, with the edge work, with the agility there, you could work him into a possessional defenseman who is able to bring something to the table. Though most likely he will be a defensive D that probably fits in your 5th or 4th slot. But still, though, to get that type of D who can eat minutes pretty consistently at the 3rd round, 2nd round, I mean, you're laughing when that happens. We keep going, and next up on to number 6, we're going to move on to the NTDP, and next up I got Brody Zemer. He's somebody that I've really warmed up on over the course of the season, and is even someone that's worked his way into my early 2nd round, maybe even my late 1st when it's all said and done. But I love Ziemer. There's so much to like here with the intensity, the forechecking, the ability to drive the net. He's somebody that just plays the game the right way, but is also incredibly smart with his puck touches. Gets it off quick. He's able to deceive players, especially inside the slot. And he's somebody that, even though I don't think is going to be a play driver necessarily, he's not going to be this, the guy that's skating or bringing the agility. He's somebody that's going to be a great complementary piece, and somebody that, again, on your bottom 6, you love to have. I think even could be a little bit more than that. Could be a great supplemental player you could just put on the top 6 and get some pretty good results out of. But the forechecking game, the shot in tight, those are going to be the big assets that I think propel him to that next level. But I think he's somebody that, like a lot of the NTDP players these past couple of years, think Gabe Perreault is going to be the perfect type of guy to place next to your fantastic centerman, who will do the dirty work, have a good shot when he needs to, and get the job done. And in Ziemer's case, I could absolutely see him filling that role. Now, you can notice a little bit of a theme. I do love my forecheckers, especially in this draft. There are a lot of good ones. A lot of the good ones, especially, are higher up in my list, and one of the best in this class has to be Sam O'Reilly out of the London Knights. To me, he is going to be somebody that is just going to be a pain in the butt for every single defense that he faces in his career. He is somebody that is just so intense, so good along the wall. His possession game is brilliant. He's somebody that I think, especially with how stacked London wasn't able to get as much of a role as he probably would have. But you can see he was solid in the regular season, great in the playoffs in my opinion. He just plays winning hockey. He plays intense hockey. He gets under your skin. He's somebody that I think, even though he doesn't have this brilliant offensive game or something that's going to be exploding at the next level, he's somebody that to me is going to get the job done, is going to be great along the wall, pushing pace in the right direction. And the most important thing is he's very good at getting pucks to the right players, getting it to the scorers, and to me that playmaking game and what we see out of it in the next level will be the big make or break. But to me, especially with those characteristics, with the traits, with how smart he is, to me, I just can't see him not being an NHLer. Now, going on to number 4, this is a player that I think you could take in a multitude of directions, but I think it's somebody that I think will likely fall in this draft class quite a bit, and that's Luke Osborne out of the Youngstown Phantoms. Of course, future Wisconsin Badger. This is going to be an interesting case because I like Osborne quite a bit, but he's somebody that with how young he is, with how unrefined he is, again, I think a lot of teams might end up skipping on. There are times where there could be some pretty bad defensive mistakes and times where he just simply gets out-muscled, but I think that's because of his age and just how unrefined he might be. I mean, this was his rookie year in the USHL. He got 23 points in 60 games, but to me, the best and most consistent parts of Osborne's game is the deception. It's the way he's able to use the puck and use his body really to deceive and create momentum, and especially up the ice, be a brilliant transitional D. He's somebody that I think has some pretty great offensive instincts and, again, creativity that I think has yet to be unlocked on a consistent level. To me, if he gets in the right system, if he gets in the right situation, you could get a pretty solid offensive D here. I don't think anything that is going to be incredible or anything, but I think somebody that could turn into this just capable all-around defenseman who, again, just gets the job done and is somebody that I could absolutely see falling into the 5th, 6th, 7th round maybe. Now we keep going on to the top 3, and next up at number 3, we're going to go to a guy that has pleasantly surprised me throughout the course of the season and has just gotten more and more ahead on my board. And next up at number 3, I got Teddy Stiga out of the NTDP. The BC commit, this is somebody that I think is going to be really underrated on draft day, and I would not be surprised if he falls to the late 2nd round, for example, but as somebody that has quickly come into my top 25 of my draft rankings for a variety of reasons. Sure, is he on the shorter side? Yes, but this is somebody that is so smart with his forechecking, so smart along the boards, using the physical body that he does have. He's incredibly consistent at that, and the way he's able to win over puck battles, the way he's able to put pucks in the slot, he knows where the game should be played, he knows how to score goals, and he knows how to set up other players. And to me, just like a Gabe Pro last year, this is somebody that just plays the game so smartly, so consistently, and I do think has a lot of offense to bring in his own side. That, to me, I think is the main difference over players like Ziemer, over Sam O'Reilly, is that Stiga can create by himself. He can be somebody that you can put in an offensive role and get results out of, but to me, is going to be best as this forechecking complementary guy to a fantastic center, but a really, really good one. But please, don't let him fall to the 2nd round, because we're going to look back on draft day a few years ahead of time and say, why the heck did Stiga fall to the 2nd round? Well, don't say I didn't tell you. Next up, we go on to number 2, and a guy that I've seen falling on a lot of draft lists recently, and I could see why, but I still am pretty confident in him actually turning it into an NHL player. And next up, I got Denil Ustinov out of the main Swiss League. And to me, this is going to be an interesting case because Ustinov brings a bunch of pretty good traits to the game. His skating ability is the main thing, the agility, the speed. I think there are times where he kind of over-relies on it a little bit, but I think Ustinov could absolutely turn into this smooth skating, solid physical defense at the next level. I don't think his size is going to bring him into this ultra punishing tier of NHL D, but I think he'll get the job done there, especially with how young he was in the Swiss League this year. To me, he played some pretty good minutes and was pretty good throughout. To me, I don't think you're getting an incredible player here, but do not be surprised to see Ustinov become this solid bottom pair D who is forgettable, but forgettable in the right ways, because he just gets the job done and you don't notice him all that much. He's another guy that I think could absolutely bring incredible value in the 2nd round perhaps, but is another guy that because of some of maybe the defensive inconsistencies, maybe the troubles projecting him as this physical D because of his size, maybe that ends up dropping him in the draft, but I don't think it should. I think he's good enough in those aspects to get by, and I think eventually will become this solid all-around D. Now, next up, going on to number 1, and another player that we talked about in the risers and fallers prospect list, and this is somebody that I've really loved watching over the past few months, and that is Teran Smith out of the Everett Silvertips as my most underrated prospect in this draft class. Now, granted, on the defensive side, he's probably one of the more bigger boomer bust prospects in this whole draft class, but to me, he is just so much fun. He's not really, I would say, riding the momentum of teams. He is trying to create it. He is trying to set the tempo of really every single shift he's out there. He's somebody that has some of the best moves, some of the best deking ability out of any D in this class, if not the best. And he's somebody that's really developed his overall game over the course of this 2nd half of Everett. To me, that's been a real major improvement. And at his size, I don't think it's a problem with the skating ability, with the consistency, his edge work there. I think he could absolutely be a solid defensive guy. But to me, the way he's able to create on the rush, the way he's able to set up once he's in the offensive zone, to me, there's a lot of offense you could get out of Smith. And he's somebody that if he's a late 2nd second, third rounder, fourth round pick. I mean, the offense you could get out of Smith to me is too tantalizing to pass up. To me, though, the skill set with how much he thinks the game offensively, to me, those are things that will bring him over the edge of the NHL level and eventually have him turn into an excellent NHL D. He's not going to be somebody that is a top tier guy, but somebody I could absolutely see fitting into a middle six power play role, and somebody that, even though requires a lot of patience because he is quite raw at this stage, has a big development curve. I mean, for teams that like that, really prioritize that, like Montreal, to me, in those systems, you could get a lot out of it. But those are my underrated prospects for the 2024 NHL draft. And let me know down below, what do you guys agree with? What do you guys disagree with? And who are your underrated prospects for this draft? Who do you want to see your team go after? Let me know all your thoughts down below. Of course, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell if you guys are enjoying the prospect content and want to see more like it as we lead up to the draft. And of course, share the video with all the hockey fans that need the draft content out there. And click on this card for all the hockey prospects content right in one playlist. My name is Nathan, and I hope you have a fantastic hockey day. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.